No, you can't use my. No, you're cheating. Put your country now.
All right, let's go ahead and share a couple of these. Again, ways in which the body loses fluid. Austin, you got one?
I said sweat.
Sweating, right? So, very popular one. I imagine a lot of us have that one. What else we got, Job?
When your eyes dry out.
So, crying. Guys don't cry. So, crying, or eyes drying out, eyes watering. You know, I understand what you're saying. My eyes are just watering. I'm crying. Garrett, you got one? Peeing, urination, right? Common. Another one, Clayton.
I said spitting.
Spitting, right? Sometimes that happens unintentionally while we're talking. Jason.
I said
Feces. So diarrhea included there as well. So that's a way in which we lose a lot of water. It can be dangerous at times. Others. Nora? Throwing up, right? That happens. Yep. Clayton? Bleeding. You lose water there. Others? Anything different? Yes. Runny nose. Boogers. I've had somebody suggests earwax that way, right? So that does happen. We had a few others. I can't remember a lot of them off the top of the list. But what we have here in this situation, this creates a drive especially because of like diarrhea and sweating and urination. What it does is it creates a type of thirst, right? So this relates to our chapter on motivation because it creates a drive. We have this desire now to go out and find water or find some type of drink, right? So this is what we call, or what scientists and psychologists have labeled as extracellular thirst. So you may write that term down. Extracellular thirst. There's two types of thirst. One of them is extracellular, right? So dig a little bit deeper. The idea of extracellular thirst is that inside of our body, we have a lot of fluid that is inside of ourselves and then outside of ourselves. So with urination and diarrhea, throwing up, a lot of that we're losing is outside of the cells, the body cells. Sound good? So the alternative to extracellular is what scientists, psychologists have labeled intracellular thirst. Intracellular thirst. So that means that the fluid, the liquid inside the cells is being used up. So I think of the cells becoming like a raisin, right? Shriveling up like a raisin there. Okay, and because of that, our body naturally creates this drive. We're going to go try to seek out water. So can anybody think of ways in which we could experience intracellular thirst? Again, that's intra, T-R-A, not inter, T-R-T-E-R. Sound good? Make sure that you know the difference because there's a good test question that gets a lot of people. It's like what type of thirst is created because of losing liquid inside the cells. It says intracellular thirst, it says intercellular thirst, and everybody chooses intercellular thirst. It's intracellular thirst. Sound good? So, Job?
Consuming a lot of salt.
Yes, exactly. Consuming salty foods. So that's why I asked you to bring chips in. So I think we had this pretty. Oh, there we go. You can eat your chips if you want. Yeah. So the idea is that I was going to take your water and drink away from you for the rest of the class and see how it, how it increase your level of motivation to go seek out some water there. But if you really think about restaurants take advantage of this idea, right? They, give you salty foods while you're waiting in line to go into the restaurant, and they give it to you for free. And for me, I'm thinking this is awesome. I go over and get peanuts from what's the place? Texas Roadhouse, right? I'm eating all these peanuts. But then the restaurants, they make their money back by, selling a lot of times it's their alcoholic beverages. They can create an exponential markup and their profits are really, really high because of that. Okay, they're assuming that a lot of people are going to purchase those type of beverages there. Sound good? So you got to fight back by just like getting water every time that you go to a restaurant that gives out free stuff. Get the best of them that way. But I mean, you'll see it in a lot of different types of restaurants. They'll give out some type of salty food, and that is creating that drive for you to purchase something later on, and they're going to make money off of it that way. Okay. Somebody else suggested earlier this morning there's a cellular process that would actually take away fluid from inside the cell as well. Do you know what that is?
If you put your cells in a hypertonic solution, it means that the concentration, or there's more water on the inside of the cell, so it sort of gets sucked out of the cell, which makes it shrivel up.
What's the environment that would create that hyper environment?
It's too much, presence of too much dissolved materials outside the cell.
And so they didn't tell you about what type of environment that looks like outside of the body.
No.
They just told you that's what it looks like inside the body. Okay, I understand what you're saying.
What would internal be?
Internal bleeding?
Like, it's not like going.
It's not coming out of the body. Would it be in extracellular or intra? I think it'd still be extracellular, right? I wouldn't assume it to be intracellular. You do have blood cells, right? Same time. I would still put it in extra. I could be completely wrong, but I'd put it in the extracellular. Yeah. All right, so that's thirst. So make sure that you can differentiate those two. All right, extracellular from intracellular. Let's go to the website, and I've got the rest of our notes posted there. Psychology. Go down to motivation and emotion, and we're looking at the second link there is primary drives. Primary drives. We're going to take a moment to fill in these blanks and then talk about weight a little bit because that's kind of associated with primary drive. So we got thirst. Now let's talk about hunger for just a little bit. With hunger, there's a specific part of the brain that is associated with hunger. Somebody remember what part of the brain that would be? Give you a hint, it's really, really small, 2 ounces in weight, and it's really, really powerful. Hypothalamus. Alright, so hypothalamus, we go in the first blank here. It has 2 areas. Even though it's small, it's broken down into 2 more areas that regulate eating behavior and the hunger drive. So the first one is abbreviated with an LH, and the L stands for lateral hypothalamus, like in football you throw the ball backwards, lateral in it, right? This particular section of our hypothalamus, it acts as a feeding center, and when it is stimulated, it causes animals to eat even when they are full. In your purple textbook that you've been using over the past couple days, it's got a picture in there, I think it's a hamster, I don't think it's a rat. But what they did was they took an electric stimulator, and then they stimulated the lateral hypothalamus, and this hamster just gorged itself to obesity. It's the biggest hamster I've ever seen. It's on top of a scale in there. It's huge. Massive there, okay? So this one, when it's working properly, gets us to eat, right? However, if you remove it, you'll refuse to eat. You won't eat anything. Okay? You won't have any desire to eat.
But it tastes good.
Okay? But it tastes good, right? But you won't have that desire. I mean, you think about there's times in your life when you don't feel well and you don't have a desire to eat. I imagine that it would be a similar situation. Okay? Ms. Barwell?
So like, I know like people who have like stress, and then, so either there's 2 sides, some people stress eat, can stress eat, or they can not eat. So like, is that your hypothalamus that's affected?
It would be related. I want to be, remind you, we talked about the different parts of the brain working together, right? And I imagine that the hypothalamus is going to be at play there, but I don't want to say, hey, everything's all in the hypothalamus there. It's going to work together with a number of different parts of the brain when it comes to those type of behaviors. A student earlier today asked about eating disorders, right? And she was making the assumption that all eating disorders contingent upon dysfunction in the hypothalamus, and it's not completely centered. It has a part in eating disorders, but it's not completely centered in your hypothalamus. There are other areas that would be especially when we talk about our somatic nervous system would be involved there. All right, the VMH stands for ventromedial hypothalamus. And it acts as our satiety. Satiety is another word for fullness center. So this part of your hypothalamus tells us when we are full. Cuts us off. Makes it so that we don't want to eat anymore in an unhealthy manner. So if you removed it, or if it wasn't functioning like it should be functioning, you'd eat yourself to obesity. You'd gorge yourself and eat yourself to obesity. I had a friend that worked, when I was in college, he worked as a teacher's assistant at one of the elementary schools in the area, and his job was to be paired up with this young kindergartner. And this young kindergartner had a disorder, and my assumption is that his ventromedial hypothalamus wasn't functioning well. He didn't know when to stop eating. He just eat and eat and eat and eat. He was always hungry. Right? So Jason, buddy of mine's job was to monitor him and to make sure that he was limiting how many calories he was consuming, because it was getting to be unhealthy on how many calories he was eating throughout the day. Other internal and hunger and satiety signals, so making us feel hungry or making us feel full. The fuller the stomach, the less hungry we feel. And that may seem obvious, but the idea here is that you don't have to fill it up with food. You can actually fill it up with water. I remember one of the earliest seasons of Survivor. You guys familiar with Survivor? Yeah, so they're out there and they're deprived of food a lot of times. The first guy that won it, he was just drinking tons and tons of water. They didn't have any access to food, and nobody else was doing this, so this gave him an exponential advantage. He wasn't feeling the hunger pains like everybody else was, right? Because he was filling up, he was confusing his stomach and thinking that it's fine. Okay? Production of glucose and insulin. So we talked about the pancreas before. Over-secretion of insulin leads to an increase in hunger, which can lead to obesity. Increase in hunger leads to obesity. So this is internal stuff. We still have external that would make us hungry or feel full as well. Mostly hungry on the hungry side. You have sensory cues, like taste, smell, and appearance of food. So just think about your five senses here, for the most part. Seeing it and smelling it, right? Or, you get a little bit of a taste of it, and then all of a sudden, hey, I gotta have more, right? So commercials do a really good job with the sight aspect. I think of Hardee's commercials where they flop down in front of you a big cheeseburger, and they get that close-up view of, how good that cheeseburger looks. And so it stimulates your sense of hunger, and you want to go out and get one, okay? The smell. Sometimes you can walk past the cafeteria on Thanksgiving Day. Yeah, today's a good example. I was thinking chicken nugget day, right? You just get the smell of chicken. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, 9:30, and you're already starting to feel hungry because you smell, the chicken nuggets, okay? Looking at the clock can cause hunger. It's like a conditioned stimulus, right? We get so much in a routine, we see the clock, we know that it's time to eat lunch. I can remember going to a theme park when I was younger, and I got so wrapped up in everything that was going on that I lost track of time. It was 3 o'clock by the time that I figured out that I'd missed lunch because I didn't have that stimulus to tell me, hey, it's time to eat. The last thing, and some students argue against this point, but they say that research suggests that eating with other people, we actually eat a lot more than what we would if we ate by ourselves. I've had mostly females suggest that, hey, in that scenario, I actually eat less because I'm concerned about the appearance that I'm projecting to others. I don't want them to think that I'm eating a ton in that context. And I can understand that. But I imagine over a long period of time, you think about social events like Thanksgiving, we're going to be around a lot of people. We're going to eat more in those situations. So more often than not, we're going to eat more than we would if we were in a smaller setting there. Okay? All right, so going along with the primary drives of hunger and thirst, body weight is an issue there as well. We have this motivation to maintain a certain body weight. Some of us do. And so there's theories or factors that account for variations in body weight. So we'll go through these 5 real quick. First one is heredity. A lot of it is based upon the genetic makeup that one has. It's going to determine one's weight. And metabolism is down here. Hormones, this one, I'd like to highlight it, is leptin. It's a hormone produced by the body's fat tissues. Increased leptin leads to an increase in body fat, so it's like an exponential. You get more leptin, you get more body fat, more leptin. It's almost an unending cycle. Decrease in body fat leads to lower levels of leptin. When leptin increases sufficiently, energy expenditure exceeds food intake and people lose weight. Okay. One other thing that's associated with leptin that researchers have found is that an earlier onset of certain life course stages, especially in females that have higher levels of fat cells in their body, they will produce more leptin, and then that actually almost promotes them or pushes them towards experiencing puberty at a younger age that way. And so researchers have seen that over the past few generations, that the age in which especially females are experiencing, and it's happening to males a little bit as well, but especially females, they're experiencing puberty at a younger and younger age. Metabolic rate, I imagine you guys are familiar with that with your health and wellness class. It's probably the most healthy way to lose weight through exercising. Fat cell theory, this is an interesting idea. Some people had a difficult time explaining, why people always gain weight back after they lose weight. And so they came up with this idea of this fat cell theory, meaning that when you gain weight, your body creates fat cells, and then when you lose weight, the assumption is the fat cells go away. But according to the fat cell theory, they don't go away, they just shrink, but they're still there. So if they're still there, then there's the potential for you to gain that weight back fairly quickly, right? Since they never ever go away. Okay. The set point theory, the last one. This is the idea that we almost have a weight number, tattooed to us. And I've seen young guys, they want to gain weight, and so they do a lot of things to try to gain weight, increasing the number of calories. But what happens for them is their metabolism increases, exceedingly, and they can't gain weight. It just stays the same. Or it goes the opposite direction. I've seen people, they try to lose weight, and when they lose weight, then their metabolism slows down, and then it always hovers around the same number over and over again that way. Okay? All right. I think that is it for our notes today. So you got the 2 primary drives of hunger and thirst, and then you've got some factors in variation and explain variations in body weight. Tomorrow we'll talk a little bit about eating disorders, differentiating anorexia and bulimia. Before we finish up, I want to share with you one more thing. Introduce this assignment to you. And again, the due date is not until December. I think our task this week would just be identifying our topic. It's our research paper. It's got a tab for itself. All the way down at the bottom, this is personality disorder paper. So if you're on the website, I encourage you to click on that. One of the objectives of the dual credit class is that we do talk about psychological disorders. We don't have a chapter that we go over in class, so this is the way that I satisfy that objective. We have a research paper on it. Sound good? The second link is an outline of the assignment. You have a list of psychological disorders that you can choose from, and hopefully by the end of the week, you can narrow it down to one of them. Sound good? I think that should be our goal, okay? Everybody can choose the same one. That could happen, right? It's not a first come, first serve there. The paper has 3 parts. It's 3 pages, okay? The first part is a diagnostic overview of the disorder. The second part is a case study of the disorder. And the third part is treatment for the disorder. Sound good? Now with a case study, I've already got the case studies prepared for you. You don't have to go out and find somebody that has the disorder. I've had students try to incorporate personal experiences, like people that they know that have the disorders. I'd really rather you not do that, for sake of anonymity, purposes there, okay? If you go back to the website, the link at the top, it says personality disorder website. I'm not sure if your Chromebooks, see if it works on your Chromebook. It does. I thought they were gonna take Flash away from us, but for some reason, it still works right now. So hopefully it works for the remainder of the semester, otherwise we'd be in a predicament. Well, it worked earlier today. Maybe it's not gonna work for me now. Maybe they saw I opened it up and they're gonna shut me down. So is it working on yours?
Yeah.
Gotta wait. And try again. Oop, that's not it. Yeah, it's blocking me now. Exit out and try it again. See if it works a second time for you guys.
Yeah, it's still working.
Still working. They must just cut me or something. Well, anyways, with this site, it's got it broken down where it gives you a diagnostic overview. It gives you a case study of a person that you can actually ask questions to them. They got pre-planned questions, and then you can listen to their responses for that person that has that disorder, and then it's got a section on treatment. Sound good for the disorder? You do have to have two sources, so that's one source, but you have to find another source, and it's got links to some other sources that would be beneficial for you there. Sound good? So our goal would be just to narrow it down and pick out one of those this week. Sound good? Any questions before we go? Nope? All right, you guys can hang out for the last few minutes.
What drill is this? Instrumental.
Yes. Linda.
But the first question is,